the Mindset Athlete podcast, and I'm your host, James Roberts. I'm a two-time Paralympian and owner of James Robert Fitness, which is an online training, nutrition and mindset coaching business. First of all, I'd like to thank Lauren Williams for suggesting this quote to the show. An athlete is a mindset. It's how you prepare, think and execute. Not because of some elite status or physical stature. Anybody can be an athlete. By Chris Harth. And each week on the Mindset Athlete, we like to bring you inspirational athletes, a message, or experts talking about human optimization to teach you how to change your perception of your mindset and become 1% better. And on today's show, I've got Nathan Jones, aka Mr. Bag and Tag. Nathan is a professional MMA fighter, hardworking athlete, and a dedicated martial artist. He's a black belt in kickboxing and a brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So welcome onto the show, Nathan.
Thank you very much for having me.
So if we go right back to the beginning of why you got into MMA, your story is a little bit more unique. Can you talk us about, the yes man philosophy to start with?
Yeah, so, I was at a low point in my life. I was 23, broke up with my baby mother, didn't have a good job at the time, just like everything wasn't going right, health problems and all sorts. And that was like my whole outlook on life. Every different aspect of my life was just shrug the shoulders and whatnot. And I came across The Yes Man, which is a film. It's also a book as well. And I just found it hilarious. Basically, Jim Carrey says yes to everything. And, well, not everything, but most things. As you can imagine, whether, if you say yes to everything, where the comic value comes into it. But no, he just started saying yes, and he found happiness. And I was like, you know what, let me give this a try. So I just started saying yes to things. And I had a friend that went for a free trial at a gym. Do you want to go down to the gym? I was like, yeah, go on. Went to the gym. I quite enjoyed the session, but I found it like with the jiu-jitsu quite compromising. Like I'm hugging a stranger and the sweat's getting in my face. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? And they were saying, oh yeah, did you like it? Yeah, I was like, yeah. Do you want to join? I was like, yeah. Fast forward time, and then it was just like, look, Nathan, do you want to fight? And I was just like, yeah, when? Let's go. Just started to enjoy it. Enjoyed the company. Because it's really martial arts, you find a sense of community, a sense of family, and I just felt the benefits of exercise, felt the benefits of the martial arts and the competition, and I was thriving in it, and found happiness. And 10 years later, I'm still here, still involved in martial arts, to the point where I've said yes, and I've worked my way up the ladder. Started competing, turned professional, and then working through the European ranks. I always like to go bigger and better, onwards and upwards, and that's what I've done. So for me, the yes man philosophy works. I also use visualization and manifestation, to welcome opportunities and stuff. So I'm on a journey, and I'm enjoying where I'm at the moment, so smiley face so far.
Obviously, most people need to do the opposite in general populace, don't they? In terms of they're more inclined to be the yes man or the yes woman, and most of those individuals should say more no's more often. Do you find it, for you personally, sometimes difficult of always saying yes?
Yes. Ironically, I do, because I always have to think about it, but I always found myself blocking myself to these opportunities, but by saying yes, it keeps me in that stretch zone where I'm constantly growing and developing. Say yes, and I think about how to do it later, and that's where I end up growing, doing things I wouldn't necessarily normally do, or finding myself meeting somebody that I wouldn't necessarily meet, and then there's an opportunity there, and touch wood, you know what I mean? Yeah, I keep saying yes and good things keep on happening, but I'm trying to make that part of my personality where I'll say yes, even if I find myself uncomfortable or, a bit, I'm not sure how it's going to look or go. Yes, I'll sort out the logistics afterwards. And so far so good. I find myself doing new things and growing because of it. Really now what I'm finding myself doing is developing my teaching style, from having to be, always face to face. Now it's online. Do you know what I mean? How do I communicate and get the stuff to people, And then another challenge has been teaching jiu-jitsu to young people on Zoom. That is the most difficult thing. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. But then I said, yes. It's like, right, cool. Now my coaching style has to develop. How can I engage young people at a distance with a contact sport with no contact, and that's helped me as a coach, as a communicator, to develop skills that I didn't necessarily have, or to tighten things up. And it's only a good thing, and so I'm always an advocate for saying yes, and within reason. You can say no to things, but for the purposes of growth and development, say yes and sort it out afterwards.
You brought up a poignant point, Nathan, of ultimately Zoom, Microsoft Teams, whichever one you want to use for doing sort of things like that from a coaching perspective. If we go back to the beginnings, of you not wanting to get so close, like hugging perspective from the early days, what kind of mindset did you have to get to obviously progress to get your black belt in one martial art and then obviously a brown belt in the other?
Turn up. That's the first thing, and the hardest thing is to turn up. Turned up. And that's the 80% of doing anything is by turning up. But not just turning up, not just for the attendance. I had to push, again, find that uncertain territory, and that's why I love martial arts. That's why I love competition, because we don't know what's going to happen. And there's always a chance of losing, but we always want to win. Do you know what I mean? And it was just progressing, pushing, testing myself, and yeah, what can I say? I love it, and that's one of my goals of 2020. Well, pre-lockdown, but after all this, to get my black belt in jiu-jitsu, that's what I really want to do. But like anything, if you get out what you put in, so showing up and giving it my all every time, more to that, it's just that's what you got to do, and that's what I do,
So obviously we fast forward to the present, and you're talking about utilizing Zoom to engage with young kids or teenagers and the youth for that matter. How difficult is that to keep somebody engaged when you obviously have so many distractions on the periphery?
From that, it was difficult. I mean, and as easier, one, because I'm used to it, but two, because the restrictions are, touch wood, fingers crossed, are easing up as well. So we can do a little bit more with the weather being nice and stuff. But from the outset, I was like, how do I do this? But me being professional, I've committed to something. I've got to do it. So you just got to be creative, work with what you got. There's that old wives' tale saying, if life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. That what I mean? And that's what we've got to do. And that's what I've done to the best of my ability. And there's always ways around it. Yeah, okay, you may not be able to do exactly what you want, how you want, but work with what you got. There's things we can control, things we can't control. And what we can control, we do more of, and work our way to a point where we can do other things when we can do them, And I've always taken that mindset an approach to life, and try to instill that and pass that on to my students and stuff. And I think it's paying off, because they can understand that there are things that we control and there are things that we can't control. So we've got to work with what we can. And, so far people are still turning up and they're still smiling, and, that's all I can ask for,
Do you think that growth mindset and not wanting to be a victim comes back to, obviously, your earlier life being bullied and ultimately being attacked in the streets? Do you think it's you want to harness that energy to be, well, I'm never going to be put in this position ever again?
Yeah, that's that's very important, because growing up, I did have low confidence, and I wasn't able to put myself out there. One, I didn't feel comfortable, and every time that I did, I felt like I was getting pushed back, and I accepted that, and it's about saying enough's enough, or making a stand, and just, you know what, this is what I want to do, or I'm going to strive towards my goal, and being persistent and resilient, because there are lots of no's out there. You're going to get a lot of no's, and it's all about just picking yourself back up and going through. So whether or not you're not getting the job interview, or whether or not somebody's going to pick on you, just in the playground, or the pandemic's not going to allow you to do things how you want to do it. Life still goes on. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I do martial arts, and that's why I like my young people to do martial arts, because it's okay if you don't win. Go again, try again. It's a game, it's a match. It does not matter. Life goes on, and it's having that mindset. Okay, cool. I can try again. Cool. I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to do it again. Or I need to get better. What do I need to work on? Right, so I can do it again. Is how, one, winners are created, but two, how boys grow into men. And I'm slowly learning that. If somebody told me that when I was a lot younger, I'd be a lot further on in life. So I'm just trying to do what I can and pass the message on, because from my point of view, martial arts is a gift. And once I was given that gift, I turned my life around, and I was able to turn my life around with this gift. And, I just want others to be able to make their own choices and go in the directions that they want to go in with what they can control, So.
Do you think martial arts gives you, and I'm going to use your words here, Nathan, that control in an uncontrollable environment?
Yes, definitely. Because it's that fight or flight. You get put into a situation and you've got a choice. It's all about making choices, fight or flight, and the more we put ourselves into those positions, the easier it is for us to respond. And that's what I tell my young people: don't react, respond. Do you know what I mean? And calm, calculated decisions. And martial arts is a safe environment to have that choice, to fight or to flight. Well, I believe, I'm advocate for it. So I'll always say, yeah, do this, do that, because I've benefited so much from it. To a point where I can live my life and forgive the people that caused me problems, and not need to seek revenge, because I've moved on. I'm happy, I'm content, and I just want to make a difference moving on, So I think, yeah, martial arts puts us into that environment and keeps putting us into that environment. And once we've met our point or learnt that lesson, there's always another step to go to, because doesn't matter, there's within martial arts, there's always going to be a bigger fish, whether it's they're in your gym or they're in the next gym, or you go to that competition, we can always seek a challenge, and just like rock, paper, scissors, there's always something that you don't know, or that you've got a weakness, or and it keeps you honest, it keeps you humble, and we're always trying to seek that enlightenment. So that's why I'm still training and still learning and still trying to go further along my journey.
You talked about enlightenment there, and I was pondering whether or not to ask the question. Do you think there's some life lessons in, like martial art films of the likes of, the Karate Kid, that's trying to seek out revenge, because he's been bullied at school, and ultimately there's been sequels after it, thereafter. Do you think sometimes people need to go into martial arts for the right reason, as opposed to kind of counterintuitively getting their own back? And I did martial arts for a little bit when I was younger, but I wasn't as disciplined as you, because I only had a white belt. So that shows the dedication to the craft. But ultimately, what you're told from day one, irrespective of whatever martial art it is you're not to take this outside the dojo and use it in the wider community.
For sure. And funnily enough, talking about the Karate Kid, I was watching Cobra Kai on Netflix literally earlier today, on my break. But 100%, I agree with what you're saying. I look at martial arts as like a superpower. You got to use it for good. You can't use it for bad. And there are people that use it for bad, but the values that martial art teaches is to use it for good, and you use it sparingly. Like Bruce Lee once said, like, he had a student who said, "Oh, you're talking about all this, you're teaching us all these moves, but you're talking about peace." But he said, "You'd rather be," well, let me just make sure I get this right. Cool. "You'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." And this is how we've got to be. I go out into the cage and I perform, but it's a performance. It's a sport. It's separate to going out and attacking people. And I'm not a vigilante like Batman to go and save people, but I mean, I've got these skills, but I use them in context, and it's just about having the right context. And I think people that misuse it just need to be taught or reminded of their duty within society, and to play a good, positive part. And I just think people that use it for the wrong, I just feel they're either misguided or they're out of sync for their purpose that they play, and it needs people like these martial art films to reinforce these messages, and I think it's always a good thing to see it being misrepresented in films, because you think, wait, hang on, that's not right. They need to be like this. And then you see, the underdog come out and save the day. Like, yeah, that's how, you know what I mean? And we're taught this from young, and you don't have to learn martial arts to respect and understand the values that it teaches. And ironically, the more I've got into the combat sports, the more I understand the martial arts and want to bring it back to its grassroots, because it's not about, it is about being the best. And yeah, I just want to smash. Yeah, I'm a fighter. It is about that to a degree if you want to be the champion. But to be a martial artist, you need to understand it and to feed it back through to help people, because to develop to be good human beings. So the more I've become a fighter, the more people would look up to me, the more I need to show the goodness that there is in martial arts. Because although I go and fight, and with the purpose of inflicting damage, that's further from what it actually is, if that makes sense. Because I see it as a competition as opposed to hurting people, and using my responsibility, where the platform that I have, or the role that I play within society, I have to reiterate these messages at grassroots, so people understand the sport and they understand the art, as well as the context of each.
Is that why the UFC is kind of unique in its take? And this ultimately is your opinion as well, Nathan, in terms of its kind of putting on personas for the athletes within it, and ultimately trying to have a narrative of its entertainment, because it's going back to, the Roman times, the gladiatorial fights. Ultimately, you're not going to the death, but pretty much you're seeking to commit as much damage to the other person as possible.
100%. It's a sport, but it's also an entertainment business. So by putting a narrative on it, or by people being able to connect to a fighter, to believe in them or wanting them to win, then people will follow it. And yeah, you're right. Mixed martial arts, you see its origins in pancration, which was back in the ancient times, where it was the slaves that were the gladiators that fought to the death, but it was the citizens that would take part in these fights for a winner, as opposed to dying with as such. So yeah, it's got its roots all the way back to the ancient times, and no, it's quality. I'm an advocate for it, and I love it. But it can easily get taken out of context. But like I said in the question before, that's why we, as adults and responsible people, have got to reiterate these messages and put context to where you would practice these moves and where you would go to watch these things. And
you talked about, obviously, a while back in the episode about Vigilante and Batman. When you are walking up into the ring, do you have to kind of have a different persona, or are you Nathan, all irrespective of fight mode or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are two people. Yeah, there's Nathan Jones, who you're speaking to right now. I'd like to think is quite articulate, well spoken, good sense of humour, devilishly good looking. But also there's Mr. Bag and Tag. Mr. Bag and Tag is brash. Mr. Bag and Tag doesn't care. Mr. Bag and Tag wants to win, but also Mr. Bag and Tag is prepared not to come back as such, because I want to leave it all out there in the cage and I want to perform. There's two sides to me. So when I get my hands wrapped, I start warming up. That's where Mr. Bag and Tag comes out. I'll lock my phone off, and I won't be disturbed until I finish that fight. There has to be two sides, because we've all got lives, we've all got worries, we've all got stresses, families, we all got a boss. Do you know what I mean? And taking that baggage, that mental baggage, into a fight is not positive. It's just excess baggage, so that gets left at the wayside, and it's just one thought, which is, I'm gonna win. I need to win. The time is now. And I've got a mantra that I repeat to myself when I'm getting my hands wrapped. I say, it's my time to shine. I'm going to give the performance of my life. I do this every day, Bag and Tag. And I literally just repeat that in my head. Because you get get these uncontrollables, the self-doubts. Oh, what if they do this, or what if they do that, or who you're fighting, they're like this, they're like that. And I just bang that all out, and I just repeat that to myself, psych myself up. And I've seen videos where people have recorded me, or I look at myself in the mirror and it's like I've got like a glaze over my eyes, and I'm just a different person. I'm sure you'll get something similar when you're about to compete, and it's all you can think about is winning or performing or doing what you need to do, and I like having that side to me, because it's that trigger, that kill switch, that next gear, that you've only got a certain amount of that in you, so you just use it when you know what I mean. And yeah, I like that I've got that part of me, but I like to keep it locked away, so when it comes out, he's out, and he's so starved of like a cage, and just needs to break free. So when he comes out, he's hungry, you know, and wants to go. And that's if I was to personify it and put it, like, articulate that feeling and that transformation. It's when I get my hands wrapped, there's no turning back, and that's where the fighter comes out and he wants to fight. You know, yes, I've got to train, and I train like 5-6 times a week, and, you know, I'm sparring and I'm doing all this, but the kill switch isn't there. I need my training partners. I want to train with my training partners. I want them to be able to train so they can do what they need to do, you know. But I'm just that Mr. Bag and Tag. He's there and he's just waiting patiently. He's hungry, you know. So I do want to get out to fight. So as soon as you know, I can get a fight with a crowd, you know, I'm going to be out there to fight. Definitely.
Well, let me ask you this, though, Nathan. When you actually locked in like that from having your hands wrapped, are you completely oblivious of the crowd? Obviously, we're talking pre-COVID. Were you completely that focused, like very much tunnel vision, until you got into the cage?
Yes and no. You know, you vibe off the crowd. You know they're there because you got your family there, you've got your friends there, and you've got people that are their friends and family. So you vibe off it, you know. And it's almost like an auxiliary booster, you know. It's like, yeah, now's my time to go, and you do a good shot or you do a good move, and you hear the crowd. But it's literally white noise, you know. I can't identify certain bits and pieces because it's like a blur, you know, because it's happening so fast. But I fought in March, 2 days before we went into lockdown, and it was a closed event. You know, it was supposed to be in London, and I sold like 80 tickets, 100 tickets, something like that. So I was expecting a big crowd, and they got, like, 2 days before the fight, got relocated to Manchester, closed event. And it was just weird. I couldn't vibe off the crowd, even though I could hear my corner perfectly, and it was, you know, the arena was very closed and intimate, cozy, but it just wasn't the same. I didn't have that, like, I can't explain it, and, you know, only like sports people that will perform to crowds would get what I'm saying, you know. There was a je ne sais quoi that was missing, and for me, I felt like I didn't have that switch to go. Even though Mr. Bag and Tag was there, I knew people were watching me, but I can't explain. I needed that crowd, that noise to know that my close loved ones were there supporting me, and I was doing it for them. I needed them there, you know. But nonetheless, to be able to perform regardless is amazing feeling. But it's better when you hear that crowd and that atmosphere, because you can vibe off it, you know.
Would you put it down to some sort of instant gratification then, in terms of you're getting the instant feedback for a good punch, or obviously put that somebody in duress and putting them under the cosh? Do you think that's what was missing from having well, I've seen it with boxing. It looks weird on the TV with just the corner and the boxers, and you can hear everything being said.
Yeah, I mean, it's a performance, right? We've put all this time and effort to practice, to train, get down the weight, to prepare our nutrition and all this. All the hot, like if you think of it like an iceberg, you know, you only see the tip. That tip is the performance, but that's also like that's the bit you see. So I've done all this background work, and then it's my time to shine, and it's like I want people to see me, you know. And yeah, I really can't explain the difference, because I suppose I'd have to do it more than once, but it just didn't feel right when I did it. To the point where, because I was preparing my head of how it would be. I know the feeling of the canvas. I know what it's like to get hit, but I also know what it's like to hear the crowd and to know, you know, all that noise and the atmosphere I associate with giving it my all, you know. And I just think I need that, and I want more of it, you know. But to perform, there's nothing like it, you know. it's kill or be killed, so to speak, when it comes to combat sports. So yeah, you've got to put it on the line.
Do you think you would thrive in and to kind of use a NBA kind of approach to it? You know, they had like screens courtside for fans to actually watch live and be able to. I think there was fans' reactions to play. Do you think you could do it something like that in combat sports for you specifically?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I would be interested. Even like on Britain's Got Talent, they had like the audience there, like everybody's Skype screens. That would be better than nothing, you know. I'd actually like that, because even afterwards, I've seen social media, I've seen my Instagram. Everybody's tagged me in. They're at home, they're watching, and they're tagging me. And you know, even on my stories, I've saved it so you can live that experience again. You know, it's wicked. It's wicked to see it, and I'd be interested to see if it would play a difference, and I'm sure it would, because it's having that direct connection with your audience, or having a direct connection with your camp, you know, because even though it's an individual sport, it very much is a team effort. You know, you've got your coaches, you've got your friends, your family, your students, you've got, you know, and your opponents' ones as well. So it's just, I don't know, like when you know somebody's watching you, you work harder. Do you know what I mean? So that's that.
But Nathan, let's go behind the curtain a little bit now. What's it like for your family to watch? It must be very difficult for your mother to watch her son get smashed in the face, or the very first time.
My mum will not watch it at all. She, you know. When I'll tell you a story, I first had my fight. I said, "Mama, I got a fight." She's like, "What? What are you doing that for? You stupid?" I was like, "But Mum, you told me to do martial arts. I told you to do self-defense, not get a fight in a cage." Literally, she went at me, but like, that's why I just carried on. I was like, "Yeah, whatever." But that once she saw that I did it, she was so proud of me, because that was like my worst fear. To put myself in a position where I could get hurt. She's like, "Wow, I don't know what you were thinking, but you've come back home, you've come back safe, you've come back a winner. Well done." Do you know what I mean? So as long as she knows that I've come back safe and unharmed, if I was, you know, I said, "Would you like to see the fight?" She'd be like, "Yeah, go on then." But I'll just show her the good bits. Like if I lose, then I'll just tell, "Yeah, I lost. Oh, don't worry." But as long as I'm safe, I'm healthy, we're all good. My dad's been to a few of my fights, and he loves it. Do you know what I mean? And my partner, she's been to most of them, pretty much nearly all of them. At first, she didn't like MMA. She wasn't into fighting, and now she's like, you know, one of my biggest fans, and she's into it, and she can understand what's going on and what needs to be done and stuff. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, everybody's, you know, is interested, because it's what I like doing. It's what I want to do. It's what I'm pursuing, you know, and people that have been with me from the start, they're still there, and they're seeing their journey, and other people that have jumped on board, they can live their MMA experience through me. And I like that. And I appreciate that, you know. But in the main, everybody supports what I do, because they can see the benefits it has to me. And, you know, with the stuff I was saying before about the martial arts and passing on that gift, what I'm doing to my young people is I'm using it for good and to give a positive impact on society. So, you know, people support that, you know, because there are a lot of young people out there that could do with a bit of guidance, that could do with a bit of motivation to say, if you want to do something, do it. If somebody tells you no, prove them wrong. They say you can't, you know, it can't be done, make sure you win. That kind of thing. And even if you don't win, so do it again. Go back and sort out what you need to do, then try again, or you know. So there's lots of lessons out there, where good and bad, whether you win or you lose, you know. And I'm trying to do what I can, you know, and pass that message on and have fun doing so.
Do you think, Nathan, that the black community and the more deprived areas, because you live in London, we'll use London as an example. Do you think they should look to martial arts more as a role model than, say, the likes of footballers?
Well, I see it as an alternative. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. I would just say it's a good alternative because we all respond to different things. We all have slightly different situations, different skill sets. And if football is what you want to aspire to, go do that. Cool. But if it's not, or you don't make the cut, or you decide later on in life that it's not what you want to do, well, there are other alternatives. I got involved in martial arts when I was at the age of 23. For example, if you look at football, people are already if they're going to make it, they're already way into their career because they've been scouted in their teens. Do you know what I mean? So it's never too late to do what you want to do. Try out something. You can always have a backup plan. But what I do say to my young people, from all communities, if you are going to go through martial arts, have a backup plan. Go do your education first because you need something to fall back on. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I get hurt, I can't work. If I can't work, how am I going to pay the rent? Do you know what I mean? So do what you need to do at school first. Keep your options open, So martial arts has a lot of positive lessons to it, especially if you've got low confidence, do martial arts. If you want to lose weight, do martial arts. If you want to learn a new skill, do martial arts. Anything that you want to do, martial arts, I believe, has an answer for it. But if it's not for you or you're not into it, there's something else, I'm sure you'll find what you want where you want to get it, So, to answer your question, yes, definitely. But also, the other side of that coin is it doesn't have to. Martial arts doesn't have to be the answer for you, but it can be the answer for other people.
I appreciate your honesty. Let's go now into, obviously, your nickname. Who gave you the nickname of Bag and Tag?
You know what? Yeah, I actually came up with it myself, to be fair. The thing is, right, every fighter or every respectable fighter has a fight name. So when I was getting involved in martial arts, I was like, well, I need a fight name. Like, I'm not going to be anybody if I'm going to have a fight name. And me doing this saying yes to everything, I didn't know if martial arts was for me. So I was like, look, if I'm going to do it, I want to have the best experience possible, at least have a fight name. So I'm brainstorming all these names, and the names were stupid, to be fair. It was so long ago, I can't actually remember, but they're all laughable. And it came to being at a fight show, and I was having a warm-up fight just to get me ready for the MMA. So I was having a boxing fight to get used to the crowd and test my skills and stuff. And I was flagging. I was winning, but I was just flagging. Like, I've gone from fifth gear straight down to first gear in the second round. It was like, and then I could just hear my crowd go, bag and tag, bag and tag. And that was one of the options I had, was bag and tag. Yeah, I'm bag and tag. I'm going to bag you and tag you. Do you know what I mean? And that just gave me the spirit, because I knew they were calling me, that I just went from first gear back to fifth gear, managed to finish the fight, win the fight. And it was like, well, I've just had 50 people shouting bag and tag. I can't go back now. So, I put a Mr. in front of it to show that I mean business. And from that day on, I was Mr. Bag and Tag. And it's catchy. Do you know what I mean? It's within context of having a fight name. There's no other fighter called Mr. Bag and Tag. So that's me. You know who I am. You put it into Google, you're going to find my face. You know what I mean? So I've stuck with it, and I'm happy with it, Do
you remember what some of the names that fell by the wayside were then? How was that making it too difficult a question?
I've kind of like put it in the back of my head and locked it away, because like absolutely like ridiculous. I think one was like the lumberjack, because I was gonna hack you down, or some stupidness. Like, I can't. Honest to God, can't. Some of them are a bit like rude, a bit crude, not appropriate. Just stupidness. But then bag and tag was a good one, and it started off as a gimmick, but it's my name now, and even people laugh at it. They'll look at it on paper, oh, bag and tag, but then they'll know who I am, and they'll remember me, or they'll want to search me up and stuff. So Yeah, it's a name, but it's now part of me, and it's all good, man.
Well, it goes to some of the film names, crossing the line. You said yourself, you mean business,
That's
film,
it.
The Punisher, or where am I going to go with this? Ultimately, somebody that's going to execute to the letter of, well, I'm not going to use gang culture, but in terms of if you're going to do like mafioso, take somebody out
Yeah,
literally,
yeah.
it's to take them out
No, that's
completely.
it. That's it. And I've got 10 submission victories now. So I'm staying true to the name. So touch wood, we carry on doing so.
And you talk about TKO and things like that. How close would you go to that in a training situation in either scenario?
Um, oh, well, I can only talk for myself. Do you know what I mean? And I don't try to knock people out. Some people, there's two schools of thought. Some people will differ, and they're entitled to their opinion. But if you knock your training partner out, your training partner, you don't have them for next month. So you kind of got to be selective with who and how and why. I do train hard coming up closer to a fight because we need that intensity, we need that grit. The risks are real when it comes to this fight. So for you to simulate your training, you need to get as real as it gets, if that makes sense. But if you were to do that 3 times a week, 12 weeks out from a fight, you're going to burn out. Do you know what I mean? We've got to periodize our training. From a athlete to an athlete, what I'm talking about. So I would go harder toward the fight, closer to the fight, but I wouldn't try to inflict damage on my partner. I would just try to win. So there's ways of pinning your partner. You don't have to throw all the shots in. They don't always have to land. You just have to know that would land or whatever. Our body's got mileage on it, just like a car. So you got to look after your body and your head as well. I've been fortunate to have over 20 fights. So far, so good. And I've got a few more years left in me. Going at this intensity. But when we grapple hard. I don't try to snap people's limbs off, but we'll go as hard as we can. But then you got to have that. It's just like a dance. It's reciprocal. So I know if I'm gonna yank your arm, when your arm goes into a certain position, I'm prepared for you to tap, and you'll know from when you've lost the position to tap. Do you know what I mean? And the same goes for knockouts and stuff. But at the same time, accidents happen, and literally at pressure points, it's just like a button. So it's a contact sport, and it's a cumulative damage. So we all have wear and tear, but our purpose is to train as hard as we can, specifically. Do you know what I mean? So we'll turn it up closer to the fight, but not too close to the fight, so we can still fight. We're 100% healthy. But yeah, I can only speak for myself. I don't try to hurt my teammates. I just try to win.
Do you think that's the persona coming back into it, Nathan? You were Nathan in training up to a certain point, and then once you're locked in fight mode, Mr. Bag and Tag takes over, and ultimately he wants to commit damage.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's different schools of thought, and I respect everybody's opinions, but I just know that if I'm sparring 100%, 3 times a week for a long period of time, I'm going to burn out, or if I'm tired, then my defense isn't going to be where it should be, and I'm more likely to get hurt, and I want to be able to fight. So we'll train about 80% intensity as opposed to the full 100. But when it comes to contact, when we're doing our conditioning, when we're doing our drills, we'll go hard. But for to having that sting on the end of our shots, it's not going to be with protective equipment as well. It's not going to be there's not going to be intent, damaging intent as such.
You talked about conditioning. Is it very similar to what you would see with boxers? Ultimately, it's not old school like Rocky, I can imagine. Is it the conditioning very similar to what you'd find in boxing then, with medicine both being thrown in your abdomen and all things like that?
Yeah, it can be, because within mixed martial arts you do have boxing, but there are other specific conditionings that you'd need that boxers don't have. So, for example, you need conditioned legs because people can attack your legs. So do you know what I mean? So there's lots of different ways. And the way I look at it, boxing's one element, and there's like so many more other elements. So that's why I don't skip as much, because I'll be using that time to train something else or whatever, or I wouldn't do as much road work. I'll do other types of conditions. Do you know what I mean? So to answer your question, yes and no. I've got to be a politician with it, because there's loads of transfer crossovers and it's great, but we've got to think about specifics here as well. Even like the grappling is a different cardio system where it's constant, and not only are you pushing against somebody when you're grappling, sorry, not only are you holding their weight, but you're pushing against them. The resistance is different, so you're gonna have to be conditioned with that as well, aerobically and anaerobically. So it's a lot of conditioning when it comes to mixed martial arts, and that's one of the beauties of it. You can never be fully prepared, or well, you can be fully prepared, but I mean, you can never. There's always stones to unturned when it comes to the sport, and that's one of the reasons why I do what I do.
So if I was to kind of broadly use it then, Nathan, could you do an episode completely on conditioning within martial arts then?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
Pretty much so. Yeah, pretty much so. This
a
whole series of
it. Easily 20, 30 minutes then on just that topic alone.
Not necessarily me. I mean, I'm going to say yes, because I say yes to anything. Yeah, that's the yes man. Yes. But I mean, not necessarily me. I would have to draw on other people's perspectives, other people's theories. Different people do different things. It depends specifically what you want to do, the rule set you're working towards. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different ways we can break it down. How long you've got to do it for, got to train. You know what I mean? How many, are you in a tournament? Or are you doing one fight? You know what I mean? Are you cutting weight as well? There's so many different variables to it. So in short, yes, but I'm not an expert in everything. So I'd have to, do some research, get people in, bring arguments to the table. But then, that's what makes it interesting, right?
Absolutely. I think you and I could probably talk for the what's the theory going? So let me think. Took the ear off a donkey, or took the ear off a horse. So obviously, with that being said, let me ask you my penultimate question. I like to ask everybody else. If you had to sit down with any athlete, dead or alive, who would that be and why?
You know what? It would be Muhammad Ali. Not for his boxing achievements, ironically, but it will be for his decision to not fight in the army. Not join the army to fight in the Vietnam War. I just think that, and consequently he lost his world title. They stripped him of his title, and then he had to go fight to get it again, to become the champion again. But at the time it was so rife for discrimination in the civil rights movement. Do you know what I mean? So not only was he putting himself on the line for his boxing, but there was so much discrimination out there that as a black man to say no publicly was a big thing. And I would like to just pick his brain and just to see where he got that strength. And it was so much strength to put himself out there. And you look at the history of all these prolific people that were getting assassinated at the time, all the discrimination at the time, to have that strength to put himself out there in such a turbulent time, it just speaks volume of his character, the iconicness that he had, as well as his wit and his boxing achievements. I just think he's a legend for it, hands down.
And my last question before we wrap up the episode, see if I don't make a mistake, but I edit this bit out, is if you had to summarize what we've been speaking about into one sentence for people to take away, what would that be?
Ooh, that's hard. Now, the reason why that's hard is because we've been speaking for an hour non-stop. Do you know what I mean? For me, well, the message that I wanted to get out there is the gift of martial arts. It is a tool that anybody can find an answer to. Do you know what I mean? And you can take it in any direction that you want to go. Martial arts doesn't matter what martial arts it is or how far you want to take it. If you want to compete, if you want to use it for your own personal enlightenment, there's something for you, and it would be to give it a go and to fulfill your potential.
So once again, Nathan, thanks again for coming on the Mindset Athlete podcast.
Thank you for having me. That's been great.
That's been my pleasure. If you like this episode, please do share it with your friends, and do let Nathan and I know what you thought of the episode by tagging us over on Instagram at Mr. Bag and Tag, and as the usual at James O. Roberts 11. And again, I'll spell that out for you. That's JAMES, the letter O, ROBERTS, and the number 11. And again, you can do the same on Twitter and Facebook. And in addition, if you had any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to shoot them over as well. And last but not least, and finally, don't forget to check out Nathan's website, www.inthebagptc.com. So that's www.inthebagptc.com. And as always, don't forget to check out my free content at fitamputee.co.uk and click on the tab Resources. But not forgetting, I've also created a new Facebook group especially for the podcast, which you can find by typing in The Mindset Athlete. And last but not least, the links will be in the description. You can find all the show notes at mindsetgame.libsyn.com under the category General. So once again, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of the Mindset Athlete podcast.